Hey guys, how you doing? So today we're going to do something a little bit different in this video. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes as to how I sync my piano with my audio. A lot of you guys have asked, how do you get that nice clean piano recorded sound in your video? And it's actually not that difficult. You definitely need a few gear. So I'm going to show you the gear I use and walk you through the process of how you can do it. Because I know a lot of you guys want to be able to showcase your playing online, YouTube, post clips, and you would like to get that clean piano audio. So I'm going to show you a few ways how you can do it and what the type of gears you need to be able to do it. As you can see behind me, this is where all the magic happens for my recordings. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff I use. I'm not going to go too deep into everything I have set up, just the essential things for most of you who want to be able to throw up a video online, but you want to make sure that it has good quality piano sound. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at how we connect the keyboard to the computer. So this is my setup. And if you want to get a nice overhead stand, you can find these on Amazon for under $100, I believe. I'm using a blue screen because oftentimes I'm wearing a shirt that has green in it. So if I use a green screen, when I do the editing, it will get rid of the green from my shirt. So I use a blue screen. And like I said, all of the stuff you're seeing right here, you can get on Amazon for super cheap. I'm not going to talk too much about the lighting because there are a lot of lighting options nowadays. You can find so many lighting options in your local video store or online. I'm just going to show you how I connect my keyboard. So this is some of the gear I'm using. A lot of you ask also what camera I'm using. I'm using the Sony AX33. I think they may have discontinued these. They come out with a Sony AX, another version, higher version, but pretty good camcorders, cameras. So the way I connect, I'm using on my Nord Stage 3, I connect to the computer is through the MIDI cable. So this is what we're seeing right here. Now it's important when you're connecting MIDI that the MIDI in, which is this white part, goes into the MIDI out. And the MIDI out goes into the MIDI in. I know it's kind of backwards because the inclination you'd want to put out, into in, but it needs to be reversed for it to work. Okay? Now the type of MIDI cable I'm using is the Mio MIDI cable. These are super cheap again, just probably about 40, 50 bucks, depending on where you're buying it. And it's not a long cable, so I use a USB extension cable because my keyboard setup is here, but I have to run extension wires all the way over to my computer, my desk, right? So my extension comes out in the back right here. This is my MIDI. It goes into my USB port in the back of my computer, right? I'm over here using the extension. Now, if you're using a keyboard that doesn't have those MIDI in and outs on the back, then most likely it's something like this one. Like on my DGX, it doesn't have MIDI in the back. It has a USB, but it does the same function. It also acts as a MIDI cable. It looks like that. And the cable you need is a MIDI to USB cable. Not a MIDI to USB, a USB to USB, but it looks like this. Wait for this camera to focus. Now it's the same. This part goes into your keyboard. So it will go like that. And this cable is very similar to what they use. I think it's the exact same connection used on printers, like standard office printers. USB, this part of the USB to a standard USB that goes in the back of your computer. It functions exactly like a standard MIDI cable. So those are the two cables you might need. And again, you can find these super inexpensive online. So once you have your cable connect to the back of your computer, I'm going to now show you how we get the audio from the keyboard recorded. Okay, so now I'm on my desktop computer, and what we need to do now to record that nice clean MIDI audio, we need what is known as we need a recording software. Now I'm using Logic, but there are a bunch of other ones: Pro Tools, Sonar, Reaper, Studio One. These are called DAWs, which is Digital Audio Workstation. And it just allows you to record audio. If you have a Mac computer, you're familiar with GarageBand. GarageBand is also a DAW. In fact, GarageBand is very similar to Logic. It's just, we like to think of Logic as GarageBand Pro because it's the same functionality. It works the same way. It just has a lot more features. And Logic Pro is not a free program. It's something you'll have to buy. But like I said, for what you're doing, if you just want to do basic recording, you can pretty much do most of that stuff with GarageBand. So I'm going to open Logic right now. Okay, so now I have a Logic session open. And if you're not familiar, if you've never used one of these before, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of tutorials on how to use Logic. Or any DAW that you're using, just go to YouTube, type in how to, and you'll see basic to advanced tutorials showing you how to use. That's where I learned how to use all these recording software myself, you know. So I already have sort of a pre-template. I have my piano selected because that's what I'm using. All right, let's look into some of the settings. If you're, you want to make sure that your DAW is going to recognize your keyboard. So if I go to Logic, preference, and if I go to MIDI, that looks good. That looks good. And if I go to input, I can see Mio. That's my MIDI connection. So once you connect your MIDI port, this is where you want to see that your DAW is, at least, I'm talking about Logic. Each DAW, the functions might be a little bit different, but you should be able to see in the settings under your MIDI that your MIDI cable is being recognized, right? So mine is being recognized, so I'm all good right there. So now I know once I click record and I click record on my computer, anything I play is going to start recording right here. Now what I'm going to do is just pull up a session that I've already recorded and then show you how that works. Actually, before I get to there, I'm using what is also known as a virtual piano. That's called Addictive Keys, you know. So for a piano plugin, I'm using Addictive Keys over here. So if I click on that, it brings up my Addictive Keys. So this is what's generating my piano sound. And this is just what I use. There are tons of other virtual piano. I like the sound of Addictive Keys. And so that's what I'm using. So whatever I play on my keyboard is recorded here as what we know as MIDI. Now I'm going to open up a program that has MIDI already recorded so you see what that looks like. All right, so this was a recording I did a few days ago. This is my voice on the top right here. And down here is the MIDI. This was recorded by the keyboard. And when you record MIDI, this is what it looks like, right? So if I come up here and just sort of mute the audio, my vocal track, and mute it, and then if I come down to the piano track and I just hit the space bar on my keyboard, it will play you the MIDI. All right, so. So you see how nice and clean that piano sound. Over here, I do have some additional settings. You know, now I'm getting into a lot of sort of recording technique now. I got a compressor, you know, just to make sure the piano is nice and even. You know, I got some basic EQ on it, just boosting the bass. I have a gain, boost the volume. and then I'm sending it to some reverb in stereo spread to make it nice and full. Now again, all of that is if you want to get more into audio production. Again, nothing that complex, something anybody can learn. But if you're wondering how I get my piano sound so nice and clean, these are the little things I'm adding to it. Also have a limiter here to make sure I'm not peaking. Now, once I have that sounding good, my audio is also, nicely edited, gain, compressor, EQ, some noise gate, de-esser, all of those fancy things. People in audio production is going to know what I'm talking about. Now, what I'm going to do now is to export this audio. So if I put this little loop on, that yellow tells me that I'm going to export just from here to here. And then I would just export this in Logic, Control B, and then I can export it whatever I want. That goes to my desktop. Now, once we have that clean audio, if you're just recording yourself playing, you don't need to record any vocal, right? So if you just want, like, for example, if I just want to export the piano, I would just mute that vocal track and export just the piano. Now, once you video record yourself playing, you want to make sure that there's some form of audio coming from your video. So even though you're recording the MIDI, if you can also make sure that your keyboard audio is on. It's important because that's what we're going to use to synchronize your MIDI audio with the external audio. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a bit now. All right, so next step we're going to do now is we got to get into some video editing, because what we're going to do is replace the audio from our video and replace it with the piano audio that we exported from Logic. Now, my video editing tool of choice is Adobe Premiere Pro. Again, there are a lot of options out there, including free options. iMovie can do this as well. If you're on a Mac, iMovie is free. I'm using Adobe Premiere Pro because I do a lot more heavier video editing and need a lot more features. So I'm going to open up Adobe Premiere Pro and show you how I replace this audio. Okay, so now that I have Premiere Pro open, I'm going to drag in my test video and audio for the purpose of this video to show you how I replace the audio. So I have a test video here. So I'm just going to drag in a test video. Let me see. So there we have it, right here in my timeline. The top one is my video, and the bottom green one is my audio. This is the audio that was exported from Logic. And what I'm going to do now is synchronize them together. I'm going to switch views so I can see nice and clear and make these audio bigger. Now I'm going to zoom in. And what you're looking for are the identical part of the clips that you can then connect together. Right? Because we're going to synchronize them. So like for me, I can see, okay, this is where the audio for me starts. So these three lines right here needs to be lined up with these three lines down below. And I'm just zooming out to make sure that it's lined up. So there we go. Whenever I record, I like to do 3 claps. I like to do 3 claps before I start. So this way, my camera records those claps, and then my DAW records those claps. So then the two audios can easily be synced by those claps. It's just a little recording technique. And I'm just trimming this. And I could just cut this. I don't need the rest of that audio. Nicely trimmed. So now that both audios are synchronized, meaning they're going to play in sync, what I'm going to do is just mute the top one. The top audio, which is from the camera, see, it's muted. which means only the bottom one will be playing. So if I go to my video.
Now, it is very important. Some things I want you to keep in mind as you go through this course.
The nice, clean audio from Logic.
Have the structure. The 1's going to be minor. The 2 is going to be diminished. The 3 is going to be major.
So you hear how clean that piano sound. And again, that was exported from Logic, recorded from the MIDI. And that's how you do it. That's how you record a clean piano audio using MIDI. Now, if you notice in my video right here, I have a clip-on mic. So that's the audio that was recorded in Logic, the audio along with the piano. And so it's always good to record an audio if you can with Logic, so it lines up with the MIDI, because remember, when you export your MIDI, it's just going to be piano sound. And if there's no other sound for it to synchronize to, it's going to take you much longer to make sure that you're dragging and dragging to make sure that your finger is matching the sound that's coming out. So that's why I like to record MIDI with some form of audio that I can then synchronize later. And then if I want to get rid of the external audio, you just mute the track. All right, that's how I do it. And a lot of people might be saying, all right, Warren, how do you also get that nice background and the keys and everything? And I could quickly show you how to do that right now. So I'm just going to drag in the other files. I'm going to drag in the other files. So first thing I want to drag in is my image, the image I'm using. So I drag in that image. I'm also going to drag in my piano. I recorded Ridiculous using a screen capturing software right here. And then my overhead camera. Drag that in as well. And so now I'm going to go through the same process I did and line them up. First, got to line up the audio. So I'm zooming out to make sure that these 3 claps are all lined up. Good. I'm just going to trim this to make sure everything is nice and connected, nice and neat, just trimming the edges. So now I have my overhead right here on top. Now I'm going to drag that screen recording of Ridiculous, and I'm going to line that up on top. Just make sure those 3 dots. See, so all the 3 dots are connected. So that's how you synchronize the audio. Now I only need the audio from the green clip. So I'm going to mute everything else. Mute, because we don't need those audio. Because everything, we're only using the exported audio. Now what I'm going to do is trim Ridiculous. The recording of Ridiculous on the top right there. I am going to trim it. I'm just trying to find a clip where I was actually playing. Oh, there we go. So I was playing, because that helps me to trim it, to clip it better. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to my effects. I'm going to get my crop effect, which is right here. I'm going to drag it on top of Ridiculous. And I'm going to crop the top. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to crop the bottom. Make that probably 9. The bottom one, my bottom keyboard, which is my overhead, I'm going to pull that down. Probably straighten it a little bit. Rotation. Probably 0.5. Oops.
then I'm gonna pull down Ridiculous. I know I'm moving a little bit fast, but I just want you guys to see the process, because like I said, you'll need to learn some stuff about video editing, or at least the software to be able to do this. And then I'm gonna crop the top of that keyboard. I'm going to crop the overhead so we don't have that thing at the top. So the top, we're going to crop it. Now it's hidden. For my torso, now I'm going to scale it down. I usually go to 55. And I'm going to pull it up. Probably recenter. And now we need to put in that nice cool background. So for that, I'm going to have to create some room here in the timeline, in the editing timeline, to drag in my image. My image needs to be at the bottom. And I'm extending that image to go all across. And now to get rid of that blue background, we're going to use an effect called the chroma key, or the ultra key. In this case, it's ultra key. Drag that effect on top of my torso clip. And then here, I'm going to click this eyedrop, and I'm going to click on the blue background, and it's going to remove it. That's what we call remove keying. Now I'm just going to clean it up to make it nice and smooth. And then I'm probably going to reposition my image, pull it up so we get this nice sunset. And there you go. Now you might notice I usually have the chords display over here. So what I usually do is duplicate the top clip, which is the Ridiculous, and I'm gonna find the chord. So I'm going to resize that. I'm going clipping just to get the chords. All right. Then I'll probably scale it a little, make it bigger. Then I'll reposition it. And I like to have it on my left. And then we're going to key out that blue background using the same Ultra key. So drag the Ultra key on top of it. Click the eyedrop tool. And click here. And it's removed. And there you have it. And that's how I get my tutorials. When I'm done, I just export this and have a nice video. Now, like I said, this video I know moved a little bit fast because it would just take forever for me to explain to you every detail about how to use Premiere Pro. Now, multiple video editing software can do exactly this. The feature is going to be, where you find the different features is going to be different in each of these software. So the takeaway is, if you want to be able to create videos looking like the way I'm looking, there's two tools you need to learn how to use: video editing software and audio recording software. And I'm telling you, it's not that hard to learn. There are a lot of really good tutorials on YouTube that explains whatever software you want to use, how to do it. So now you know the gear that I have, the gears that I use to create nice, clean videos, and also, most importantly, how to sync that nice recorded piano MIDI sound to your videos using video editing software. All right? So trust this was helpful. As always, keep listening, keep singing, keep practicing, and I'll catch you in another tutorial. Bye for now.